Hi guys, welcome to ITR Expert again.
In this video of the ITR Excel course, we will work in exercise 14. We will learn how to create graphs and charts in Excel. Let's start by writing name, email address, and date in the first tab of the spreadsheet, then we can focus on the tasks provided. We will create different type of charts using the data provided, and we will see the difference between different graphs and reflect on how to choose the most relevant between all the options. In task 1, we need to compare the quantity value of a range of ingredients, so we will create a bar chart. Bar charts and column charts allow us to compare data visually, for example a series of values in the same scale and unit. However, it is important to never include the totals, as it would affect the visualization scale, making the graph not fit for purpose. Let's start. Select the whole table. Go to the Insert ribbon. Select the Column Chart drop-down and pick the first option of the 2D bar chart. Option 2 and 3 should be used only when you require to analyze cumulative data of the same item, for example percentages. Now move the graph inside the gray box and resize it to fit accordingly. When this is sorted, we will work on formatting the graph as we like. We need to add the title, which can be quite tricky at first. We need to double-click inside the title box and type directly the new graph name. Now we can change the style using the middle section of the Chart Design tab. By clicking on the drop-down, it's possible to see all the available formatting styles and pick one. Also, using the Change Colors icon, it's possible to change further the look by picking different colors options from the drop-down. Finally, we can play with the Add Chart Element drop-down. From here it's possible to do many changes. For example, change the axis or the axis names, add or remove the chart title, modify the data labels, which show the different data values. It is also possible to enter a table inside the graph, or the errors bars. Also, we can apply grid lines to help understand better the data, modify the chart legend and some others function. Feel free to pause the video and to play with these settings. You are free to format the graph as you like. Also, it is possible to use the Change Chart Type option on the right to change type of graph if you are not happy with the visualization offered. This option can be very useful when trying to find the best graph for the task. In task 2, we need to compare the total cost of a range of ingredients, so we will create a column chart. As said earlier, bar charts and column charts allow us to compare data visually, but when selecting the data it is important not to include their total. Firstly, let's calculate the total costs. Select cell H6 and type equal, select the quantity in E6, times key, select unit price in G6 and enter to finalize the formula. Select H6 again and pull down the fill handle to apply the formula up to H23. Now we will create a graph to show the total costs, which can be tricky as we only need the two columns of the table at the edge. As the two columns are not next to each other, we cannot select the whole table, instead only columns B and H. To select only B and H together, firstly we need to select from cell B5 to B23, then we hold down the Control key while selecting from H5 to H23. Now we go in the Insert ribbon menu and select the Column Chart drop-down. From there we will select the 2D column option and move it inside the gray box. Remember, the Control key allows us to make selections of cells which are not next to each other. Now, when this is sorted, we will work on formatting the graph as we like. We need to add the title. Double-click inside the title box and type directly the new graph name. Now we can change the style using the middle section of the Chart Design tab, by clicking on the drop-down and selecting a styles. Also, using the Change Colors icon, we change further the look of the graph. Finally, stop the video and play with the Add Chart Element drop-down. Keep formatting the graph and the table until you are happy with the outcome. Better is formatted and easier is to understand it, even for other people. In task 3, we need to create a dashboard with different charts from the same set of data. Having different graphs next to each other can help to analyze the data more effectively. Now we will create a column graph to show the quantities orders made and a pie chart to show the total spending for each supplier. For the column graph, we need to select only columns B and C. Firstly, we select from cell B5 to B11, then we hold down the Control key while selecting from C5 to C11. Now we go in the Insert ribbon menu and click the column chart drop-down. From there we will select the first 2D column option and move it inside the gray box and resize it. To analyze spend proportions and percentages, we need a pie chart which requires only columns B and D. Firstly, we select from cell B5 to B11, then we hold down the Control key and select from D5 to H11. We go in the Insert ribbon menu, click on the pie chart drop-down, select the first option, then move and resize the graph inside the box provided. Remember, the Control key allows us to make selections of cells which are not next to each other. When this is sorted, pause the video and work on the chart's formatting. Better the graph and the table are formatted and easier is to understand them, so keep formatting them until you are happy with the outcome. In task 4, we need to analyze data over time, so we will need a line chart. We will create 2 line charts, but also 1 column and 1 pie chart to have an holistic understanding of the data. Let's create the line graph first to show both the weekly drink and food sales. For the drink sales, we need to select from B4 to I8, then we go in the Insert ribbon menu and select the line chart drop-down. From there we will select the first 2D option, then move the graph inside the gray box and resize it. Again, do not include the totals. For the food sales, we need to select from B11 to I15, then we go in the Insert ribbon menu and select the line chart drop-down. From there we will select the first 2D option, then move the graph inside the blue box and resize it. To compare drink sales and food sales, we need a column chart. We need to select from B4 to I5, hold down the Control key and select from B11 to I15. Then we go in the Insert ribbon menu and select the column chart drop-down. From there we will select the first 2D option, then move the graph inside the gray box and resize it. At last, we need a graph to compare graphically the total drinks and food sales. To represent percentages and proportion, the best option are the pie and the donut charts. We will use a pie chart and we need to select 4 different cells. As they are not consecutives, we will need to use the Control key again. Select B5 and hold down the Control key, then select J5, B12 and J12. Go to the Insert ribbon menu, click on the pie chart drop-down and select the first option. Move the graph in the blue box, resize it, and the dashboard is ready now. Now pause the video and work on the chart's formatting, adding titles, changing styles and colors and anything you like. Remember, better the graph and the table are formatted and easier is to understand them. Task 5 is more challenging. Make sure you watch again the video called Introduction to Graphs, as it will give you the foundation on the purpose of each graph. We will create a big dashboard using many graphs. A line chart to analyze the temperatures over time, a bar and a column chart to compare the data, and a histogram for each of the 3 countries to identify statistical reoccurrence. Then we will create a Pareto chart of each of the countries to identify the best months for going in holidays due to an higher temperature. Let's select the whole table. With the same selection, we can create the line, the column and the bar chart at once. So select from cell B4 to E16 and go to the Insert ribbon menu. First click on the line graph drop-down and select the first option. Move the chart in the box and resize it accordingly. Select the table again, select the column chart drop-down, pick the first 2D column chart, move the graph inside the box and resize it. Select the table again, select the column chart again and pick the 2D bar chart option. Move the graph and resize it. To create the histograms, we need to do a selection for each of them, starting with Greece. We need to select from cell B4 to C16, then go to the Insert Ribbon menu, click on the Statistic Chart drop-down and select the histogram option. Then we move the graph in the box and resize it. Next is France. We select from cell B4 to B16, hold down Ctrl and select from D4 to D16. Then go to the Insert Ribbon menu, click on the Statistic Chart drop-down and select the histogram option. Then we move the graph in the box and resize it. The last is Spain. We select from cell B4 to B16, hold down Ctrl and select from E4 to E16. Then go to the Insert Ribbon menu, click on the Statistic Chart drop-down and select the histogram option. Then we move the graph in the box and resize it. As stretching task, we need to create the 3 Pareto charts, one for each country, again starting with Greece. We need to select from cell B4 to C16, then go to the Insert Ribbon menu, click on the Statistic Chart drop-down and select the Pareto option and move it right. Next is France. We select from cell B4 to B16, hold down Ctrl and select from D4 to D16. Then go to the Insert Ribbon menu, click on the Statistic Chart drop-down and select the Pareto option and move it right. The last is Spain. We select from cell B4 to B16, hold down Ctrl and select from E4 to E16. Then go to the Insert Ribbon menu, click on the Statistic Chart drop-down and select the Pareto option and move it right. Now pause the video, move all the graphs in the boxes, resize them and add the titles. Now pause the video and work on the chart's formatting, adding titles, changing styles and colors and anything you like. Remember, better the graph and the table are formatted and easier is to understand them. Task 6 will focus on complex comparison and requires the introduction of data normalization. When comparing data, it is important that all data uses the same scale in order to be compared. Also, there should be clear benchmarks so that the data become absolute, otherwise the scale would keep changing. In our example, we will use some football data and will analyze the performance of players. To do so, the parameters should be clear and consistent. In our table we have 2 players and we need to compare their data, however there are thousands of players in the database. To be able to normalize the data, we need to establish the maximum value possible for each of the parameters and transform data in percentage by dividing the player data by the max value. In Table B, let's start with the first player. Select C15 and type equal C9 divided C8, then enter. Then the second player. Select C16 and type equal C10 divided C8, then enter. Now we can apply the formula to the whole table by selecting C15 and C16 together and dragging the fill handle on the right. In Table C, we need to show the minutes played and the minutes off. Select C21, type equal and select cell C15, which contain the percentage of minute played. The minutes off is the difference between 100% and the percentage in C21. So select cell D21 and type equal 1 minus C21, where 1 represent 100%. Now we can select C21 and D21 together and apply the formulas to the second player by dragging down the fill handle. Now we will create the charts. We will use a radar chart, which allow a visual comparison of set parameters. We have 6 parameters already normalized in percentages, so the graph will focus on comparing the player's performance. As data is normalized, will give an objective reflection of any players of a normalized database. We will select the whole table B from cell B14 to H16, go to the Insert Ribbon menu and select the radar chart from the top right drop-down. Then move the graph in the box and resize it. We will use Table C to create a donut chart for each of the players. Let's start from the first player, selecting from cell B20 to D21. Go to the Insert Ribbon menu and select the pie chart drop-down and pick the donut chart. Then move the graph in the box and resize it. For the second player, we select from cell B20 to D20, hold down the Control key. Select from cell B22 to D22, go to the Insert ribbon menu and select the pie chart drop-down and pick the donut chart. Then move the graph in the box and resize it. In the stretching task, we will analyze cumulative data of training hours, minutes played and goals. We will use a combo chart, which allow to mix two different chart types inside the same box. We will use a column graph to compare hours of training versus minutes played and a bar graph to analyze the cumulative goals, so we can identify any trends or dip in goals scored. Let's start selecting the whole table from B40 to E50. Go to the Insert ribbon menu and select the Combo Chart drop-down. Click on Create Custom Combo Chart. We will need to change the goals using the drop-down to a bar option. Press OK. Then move the graph in the box and resize it. Finally, we will use Table D to create two scatter charts to analyze the correlation between hour of training versus goals and minutes played versus goals. For the first graph, we need to select from cell C40 to C50, hold down Control and select from E40 to E50. Then go to the Insert ribbon menu and select the Scatter Chart drop-down and select the first option. Then move the graph in the box and resize it. For the second graph, we need to select from cell D40 to E50. Then go to the Insert ribbon menu and select the Scatter Chart drop-down and select the first option. Then move the graph in the box, resize it and add all the titles. Now pause the video and work on the chart's formatting, adding titles, changing styles and colors and anything you like. Remember, better the graph and the table are formatted and easier is to understand them. At last we have the stretching task 7, which complete an advanced data analysis of ice cream sales by using different types of graphs. Using the table provided, we will create a scatter chart to analyze the correlation between the temperature and the ice cream sold. Then we will create two combo charts to analyze ice cream sold versus temperature versus ice cream. This will give us a graphical representation from different perspective. We will also create two Pareto charts, one for the temperatures and one for the sales, then two histograms, one for the temperatures and one for the sales. At last, we will create an ice cream sales tree map chart and a donut chart to break down sales by month to compare their proportions. For this task, I will only demonstrate the steps without providing guidance. At this stage, you should be confident enough to reproduce the dashboard. Stop the video and go back anytime you need and check the next tab for the answers sheet. At the end, I will demonstrate how to draw conclusions on data by using the charts created. Let's go! go. Pause the video and work on the chart's formatting, adding titles, changing styles and colors, and anything you like. Remember, better the graph and the table are formatted and easier is to understand them. Looking the graphs, is it clear the correlation between temperature and sales? Higher the temperature and higher the sales are. As expected, both the scatter chart and the combo charts show that there is an exponential increase during the summers and a dip during the coldest months. From the Pareto charts is possible to see the monthly temperatures and sales, both in order from the highest to the smallest. It is clear that the ranking is the same for both datasets. The histograms group the data in two ranges for both the monthly temperatures and sales, analyzing how many month falls in each range. They both show how the ice creams are sold mainly during the hot months, with 8 months with sales below 640 and 4 months up to 1080. At last, the tree map and the donut charts show visually the sales levels. The tree map shows data from the highest to the lowest, while the donut show data in chronological order starting from January. After this exercise, I hope it is clear how important it is to choose the right graph. It helps to understand better the data.
There you go, all done. We created and analyzed a complex dashboard. Repeat this exercises as many times you like and keep up with the good work. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell. Thank you.